Welcome to our Week 7 College Football Saturday selections. Last week we went a very impressive 12-1 overall and 11-1 against the spread. Jumping right into this week, always room for improvement. I like South Carolina going into Knoxville as my upset pick of the week. The Gamecocks are a 3.5-point road underdog, but outside of John Kelly, Tennessee doesn't have very much offensively. They're breaking in a redshirt freshman quarterback making his first career start, and it's going to come against the Gamecocks defense that hasn't allowed more than 400 yards in an individual game over the last 3 contests. South Carolina beat a better Vols team a year ago. I like South Carolina in this one by a field goal for our upset pick of the week. We begin our regular picks with a Big Ten East matchup in Bloomington. Michigan goes to play Indiana. The Wolverines, a 7-point road favorite. Michigan has beaten Indiana 21 times in a row, including a 10-point win a year ago. The Wolverines struggled against Michigan State a week ago with 5 turnovers. But for the season, Michigan has been a team led by an extraordinary defense. However, their offense remains a question mark. Meanwhile, on the other side for Indiana, the Hoosiers are a pretty average statistical team across the board. Keep in mind going into this one, Michigan 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 games against teams with winning records when Michigan is on the road. Who do I like in this one? Michigan, led by an extraordinary defense, I think controls the game, contains Indiana's offense. I have Michigan by double digits in Bloomington. Moving on to our next matchup now, a Big Ten West showdown in Madison, Wisconsin. You have Purdue going on the road to play a Wisconsin team that's a 16-point home favorite. Another lopsided series in recent years. Wisconsin has won 11 in a row against the Boilermakers, including the last 9 by 17 or more, which is key. This one currently sits at a 16-point spread. Last week, Purdue kind of got by Minnesota late in that game. Wisconsin started rolling past Nebraska in the second half to cover that one. This one, a Purdue rush defense that's kind of below average, is going to have to step up to the challenge of slowing down a Wisconsin offense led by talented freshman running back Jonathan Taylor and a Badgers offense that averages over 40 a game. This Wisconsin team kind of fits the MO, the profile of those past Wisconsin teams of recent years that have gotten better as the season progresses. A Badger team built on the back of a strong defense and a physical running game. Wisconsin, in fact, is 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 October games. My pick for this one is Wisconsin is going to be the more physical football team. This is a talented young Purdue team, but the key word there is young. They're inexperienced. I like the Badgers in this one by 23. Our next game up, Ohio State heads to play Nebraska in a primetime game from Lincoln. The Buckeyes, a 24-point road favorite. Something just to remember, last season the Buckeyes rolled over Nebraska 62-3 in Columbus. Might revenge be on the minds of some of these Nebraska players. Regardless though, since the Oklahoma loss, Ohio State has won their last 4 games, all of them by 31 or more points. That shows the Buckeye offense starting to roll a little bit, and it's going to pose problems for Nebraska. If the Cornhuskers fall behind, it's going to put a lot of pressure on quarterback Tanner Lee. On this season, Tanner Lee already has thrown for 10 interceptions. He has not taken great care of the football. I think against the Buckeye defense, coached by Greg Schiano, it's imperative you take care of the football. Nebraska 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 games. Don't think that changes in this one. I like Ohio State to score early, get Nebraska in a hole. Tanner Lee might make a mistake or two, and I like Ohio State in this one by 29. Our next one, a game in Morgantown, West Virginia between 2 Big 12 schools. Texas Tech heads to play West Virginia. The Mountaineers are a 3.5-point home favorite. A lot of people have been singing Texas Tech's praises after last week's performance against Kansas. The Red Raiders come into this one ranked A lot of people saying they have a good running attack, an adequate defense, and it's going to help Cliff Kingsbury's offense win a lot of games this year. But I want everybody to keep in mind the opponent of last week that Texas Tech played was Kansas. West Virginia, by no stretch of the imagination, has an elite defense. They merely have a below average one. But the Mountaineers do boast Will Grier in the nation's number 6 ranked passing attack, and they will have the opportunity to go up against a Texas Tech passing defense that ranks 124th in the land. I like Will Grier to make a couple plays late. I think West Virginia escapes against a good, but not quite there yet, Texas Tech team. I have West Virginia by 6 against the Red Raiders. Next up is the Red River rivalry game. Oklahoma and Texas play in the Cotton Bowl. Oklahoma. You're right. You played the Texas State Fair. They played the State Fair. Yeah. The next one up is the Red River rivalry game. This one played at the State Fair. Oklahoma shows off against Texas. The Sooners, a 7.5-point favorite in this one. Oklahoma banged up after last week's game against Iowa State. I think that kind of contributed to why they struggled defensively against the Cyclones. But really, Oklahoma is a team that's going to be led by Baker Mayfield, and their pass defense remains suspect, injuries and all. However, the same can really be said for Texas. Their offense, the passing attack of Texas, is what they're best at statistically, and you also have a Texas pass defense that struggled mightily so far this season. In fact, they're ranked even worse than Oklahoma's. That kind of plays in the Baker Mayfield and the Sooners' hands a little bit. You know they're going to want to throw the football around. Key thing to keep in mind, though, Texas has covered in this game for the last 4 seasons. I think that does not change. I think Texas covers, but I have Oklahoma winning. I like Baker Mayfield. He's the type of guy, I think, who excels with his back against the wall. Sooners' loss here likely ends their playoff dreams of 2017. Mayfield makes a few more plays than true freshman Sam Ehlinger for Texas. I have Oklahoma winning this one, but only by 5 in the Red River rivalry. The next one up, a Big 12 clash from the Little Apple in Manhattan, Kansas. The Horned Frogs of TCU, a 4.5-point road favorite as they go on the road to play Bill Snyder and the Kansas State Wildcats. The last time Kenny Hill was 5-0, he played for Texas A&M, and we all know how that story ended. Hill must hope and expect that this 5-0 start will turn out just a little bit differently. The Horned Frogs come into this game led by a strong running game and a defense that does a good job of stopping the run and forcing turnovers. I think if TCU does have a weakness, it might be that they're susceptible to the passing game on defense. However, Kansas State, not really a great passing team statistically so far this season, and I'm not sure how well Kansas State is going to be equipped to go against TCU, considering starting quarterback Jesse Ertz will not get the start. Alex Delton will instead take the first snaps at quarterback for the Wildcats. I actually kind of like Delton as a better matchup against the Horned Frog defense, but TCU is 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 road games. I just think TCU does a good job of stopping the run. Their offense establishes themselves. I have TCU winning in Manhattan, Kansas by 11. Next one up is a night kick from Tucson, Arizona. The Bruins head over to play the Arizona Wildcats. Arizona, a 1.5-point home favorite. The Bruins have won the last 5 meetings between the two, and this one should be a fun one if you like offense, not if you like defense. Why? Well, UCLA comes into the game with the #1 passing offense in college football, and they will be going up against an Arizona passing defense that ranks in the hundreds. On the other side, Arizona comes in boasting the #4 rushing attack in college football, and the Bruins rushing defense ranks 129th. I expect lots of offense, definitely a lot of points, but I have to go with UCLA in this one simply because they're going to have the best offensive player on the football field in this game in Josh Rosen. Lots of points. I have to roll with UCLA though, 45-40, coming out victorious in Tucson. Next one up, a Pac-12 after dark game from the farm in Stanford. The Ducks of Oregon head to Stanford. Stanford, a 10.5-point home favorite. Oregon has an improved run defense this season, but they are certainly going to be tested against Bryce Love and a strong Stanford rushing game. I think Oregon has made improvements, but again, no Justin Herbert for the Ducks. He did not play last week, and the offense struggled mightily against Wazoo. I like Stanford at home. Stanford was a team I really liked this season at the beginning. Kind of had a 2-game against USC and San Diego State, kind of 2 eggs. I think Stanford's starting to find the rhythm, a physical football team. Those types of teams tend to get better as the season wears on. I think Bryce Love has another good game. I like Stanford to knock off Oregon. A home win for the Cardinals by 13. Next up, a big Pac-12 showdown in primetime on ABC. Utah heads to Los Angeles to play USC. The Trojans, a 12.5-point home favorite. Utah has a good defense this season, but the big question for the Utes, will quarterback Tyler Huntley be able to go? If he can't, I think that's a big problem for Utah. They're going to have to score to keep up with USC, especially if there's no Tyler Huntley. I like USC big. USC starting to find their rhythm, I think, after a sluggish start, kind of shaking off the cobwebs that came with a lot of preseason hype for Sam Darnold and this team. I have USC just too much offensive firepower against Utah. Trojans by 16 at home in LA. Now we look at an SEC West primetime showdown on ESPN. Arkansas heads to play Alabama. The Crimson Tide, a whopping 30-point home favorite. The key in this one, I think, Arkansas, will Austin Allen be able to go? It doesn't look very likely. If Austin Allen can't go, his backup only has 18 career pass attempts. Arkansas is also a very average football team statistically. That's not a recipe for success when you're going into Bryant-Denny in prime time against Alabama, particularly against an Alabama team that only won by 8 against Texas A&M in College Station a week ago. I think a week after talking about rat poison, Nick Saban will talk about having a lead foot. He keeps his foot on the gas, and a physical effort from Alabama results in a big 43-point win over Arkansas. I think Arkansas is going to be overmatched. Saban keeps his foot on the gas, lets them get a nice big lead after last week's performance that he didn't really care for. A quick one here, a night game in the Swamp. Texas A&M goes into Gainesville to play Florida. The Gators a 3-point home favorite. At night, Florida a banged-up football team. I expect Texas A&M's strong rushing attack to play well in this one. The banged-up Florida defense can't really contain them the whole way. I have A&M over Florida by a field goal. And now in the game of the week, Auburn heads on the road. They'll play LSU. A 3:30 Eastern time kick from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Auburn a 6.5-point road favorite. And don't look now, but the Tigers are starting to roll towards November matchups against Georgia and Alabama, both of which will be played on the Plains in very friendly confines for the Tigers of Auburn. Last year's matchup had Auburn escaping against LSU in a game that ended up costing Les Miles his job. LSU did a good job last week of bouncing back from its loss against Troy with the win over Florida, but do not be fooled. This Auburn team represents a step up in competition from a very depleted, injured, suspended Florida squad. Auburn is starting to roll behind an offense, Jarrett Stidham finding his groove at quarterback, a strong running attack, and a defense that continues to play well. LSU, meanwhile, they looked okay against Florida, but didn't really do anything to change our minds about them. LSU still looks like an average football team. The question here, if Auburn gets up in this game, can LSU stay together? A lot of NFL egos on this team, a lot of looking ahead maybe to the pros. Can LSU stay together? I'm just not sold on LSU right now. Auburn's a team that's gaining momentum, looking better as the season progresses, marching towards November showdowns. I have no reason right now to pick otherwise. So yes, wearing blue, Auburn in this one, 27-14.